What we're going to do next is, we brought Jim in here, and we're glad to have him, and so are you folks, as we can see. We have two other distinguished members this evening that we're going to bring on, and I'm going to let Jim do it because there's no one probably that know him better than Jim. These two guys have been music educators for many years in the area, and they've taught a lot of us, and we've seen a lot of fun things and done a lot of fun things with them. But Jim is going to bring them up, and at this time, we're going to bring them up together, and then Jim will tell a little bit about them. But we're going to bring up Mr. Kenzie Bentle and Mr. David Kling.
Aren't you two guys lucky? I'm just going to cover a little information about these two guys. So many of you know them so well. But David Kling, he's the taller one of the two.
I'll move forward on this thing.
David began taking piano lessons early. And music teachers throughout the public school system, and his parents thought that it was important that he take piano lessons. And he got involved with piano lessons and continued that through the 8th grade. Several different people, one of those being one of his teachers he mentioned was Mrs. Pinnock. Some of you may remember that person. I do not. And I'm pretty old, you know that? I tell people public speaking, it's hell to be my age and still be so damn cute. But at any rate, Miss Pinnock was also in charge of the band program, where at the 4th grade, she informed his parents that he should play the trombone. Well, he loved band, and he loved its interactive nature, both musically and socially. So it was at that time that Bright and Guilford schools, both high schools at that time, consolidated into North Dearborn High School. Well, a guy named Charles Green became the band director of North Dearborn High School, and that was the start of a lot of things to happen. Charlie was ready to have a big band. He combined all the groups, started them marching, teaching them all kinds of things, and their first marching gig was at the Lawrenceburg Soapbox Derby Parade. David said they practiced marching through the old Guilford Covered Bridge. And of course, anybody would have loved that because you could really hear yourself in there, I'm sure. He was in the North Dearborn band throughout high school and marched at places like the Indianapolis 500, which was pretty new in those days to get that honor. And little old North Dearborn High School got that, and Charlie made them all feel very important, and every kid 10 feet tall in that band. North Dearborn High School was also the birthplace of a popular dance group. How many remember Tom and the Dukes? Well, that was some guys from North Dearborn that got that going, and Charlie Green played the organ for them. Kind of ramrodded them a little bit. Tom graduated, went off to the service, and later on, that's when Kenzie played. Well, Kenzie hadn't started yet, but you were doing. Charlie got you to come and play organ, right? Yeah. Okay, Charlie got David to play organ because he said he was going to Europe for the summer, and David became the permanent organist because he knew Charlie would never come back. He didn't want to come back to the gig. And so at that point, you were with the Dukes big time, yeah, right? Good stuff. And so after that, Tom and the Dukes, later on, Tom lost his life overseas, I believe, didn't he? And then there was another guy who was a drummer. Guess who? Kenzie Bentle. So he became a member of Tom and the Dukes. In the later years, David said he continued to play after those years was when he started a band called Free and Easy. Probably played for some of your weddings or organizations or something around here. How many years did you play in Free and Easy?
Long time. When you played the Batesville Coon Hunters, everybody showed up.
That's right. And some of them were even invited. Yeah, I played that gig too. I know what you're talking about. Well, David had planned on going on to be involved in engineering in school. But instead, he caught the teaching bug. You know how? Very unusual way. He was a lifeguard at Barkay Lake. He also gave swimming lessons. And he found out that he loved teaching kids. And then he got to decide he loved music, he loved the band, he loved teaching. And when he went off to college, he ended up at the College Conservatory of Music in Cincinnati, and he was a trombone expert.
I wouldn't say expert.
Well, I'll let you tell him how good you were. And so, after getting out and beginning to teach school, North Dearborn High School and Sumlin High School were consolidated to East Central High School. And David got a call from Charlie Green and said, hey, I'm going to be hiring an assistant over here. And at the time, you were where? Jacksonville, right? And so he said, hey, that sounds good. The next thing, he's back over there with Charlie Green again after those years. Well, after that, David had the opportunity to go and start the band program when South Dearborn High School opened. So he left East Central to go to South Dearborn. I'm trying to remember a lot of this, David. I don't know how good I'm doing. So he goes to South Dearborn and he starts the band program down there.
In fact, everything I was going to say, you just said.
Yeah, I just said. Well, at least I'll remember because your memory's not worth a damn. But should I say the rest of the things for you here?
Sure.
But I do want David Kling to step up here, and I want him to be heartily recognized. He later became the principal of East Central High School. I don't know why anybody, of East Central, South Dearborn High School, I don't know why anybody would want to be a principal.
Following in your footsteps.
Right, we loved it, we loved it. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you David Kling.
Well, we'll make this short and sweet because it's already been very, very, very long. And I just want to say that how grateful and honored I am to become a member of this Hall of Fame family. And just listening to the musicians we've already heard tonight, you have to admit or agree that music is a very special thing. You know, whether you sing it, whether you play it, whether you compose it, or whether you teach it, it's when you share it that it just becomes magical. And I just counted up, I think it's 48 years and counting, because I'm still teaching private music lessons. But I have been honored for 48 years of getting to bring music to young people, just like my public school teachers did with me, that set me out on this whole path. And I guess I just wanted to say about music in our schools is so important to so many kids, and we need to protect it and nurture it and never, ever, ever let it go away, because it's a very, very special gift for all of us. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Kenzie Bentle, and I'm not sure if Kenzie did I memorize your stuff or?
I I don't know.
You don't know. Well, I can tell you that Kenzie Bentle is a musician and an educator in Southeastern Indiana. He played the drums and was a great drummer. We mentioned that he played with the Dukes. He attended Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music and became a true drum expert. Went into music education, got his master's degree at Ball State University, taught at Morris Hill School, and when David Kling went to South Dearborn, Charlie Green had another vacancy in the band department, and guess who? Kenzie Bentle came to East Central. And later, after Charlie Green's retirement, he became the head director of East Central High School in the music department, was the band director. I think he stayed 1 year after I retired and kept the band going. And Kenzie has been a private instructor for Bowman Creative Arts Center located in Burlington, Kentucky. He's composed a lot of music. He's just done a whole lot of things. And ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome him as an inductee to the Musicians Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you. You know, one thing I think that everybody, realizes, and you're from the area, you don't realize the rich history and what we have here as far as music goes in this area. You're from here, you just kind of take it for granted. But then you start talking to people outside the area, they're just amazed. They're amazed at the number of musicians that are from this area, still working in the industry. It's really, quite unique. It is unique in this area. I'd like to thank the Musicians Hall of Fame for the honor, but there's somebody else I'd like to thank, because you can't stand up here and take a honor like this without the help and love and support of a lot of people. And one is my wife, Patty, of 47 years. She's out there. Yes, she was there all the way through the Legion dances in the 60s. In fact, David and I were talking before we even got on stage here how Patty would go to the dances because Charlie Green was there playing the keyboard. I mean, he would be there. He was an adult and she would go with me, and Charlie would be there. But what her parents didn't realize that David had taken over the job for almost a year. And so she was one of the ones sneaking into the dances. But, all those years on up to now with all the different groups, Cops and Robbers, all those, I just saw the lead singer before. I don't know if Nick came in here or not. Nick's is back there, tremendous singer. When we worked, we would do 5-6 nights a week, 4 or 5 sets a night. On Saturday night when they bring in the tour buses, like in New Orleans, we do a matinee. A lot of playing. Tremendous musicians I got to work with. Other people I like to thank is my parents, who, my goodness, they supported us. And I recently was talking to one of my nephews that they allow bands to practice in their house for over the span of 50 years. Now, who in their right mind would do that? But they did. They were doing it for us, even with Cops and Robbers, before we had a club to hammer it out in. So that love and support is what puts you on with this. And I agree with David. It's something that you need to protect in the public schools. Edith, my teacher, tremendous teacher, wouldn't she be beaming with pride tonight? Of course, Charlie Green. I just loved working with the guy. Most we won't talk about this last year's. But, people say to me, well, you made band fun. Well, it was fun because you were able to, discover your talents, be yourself. I know there are two prime examples of that here in the auditorium. One is Brian Noble. And when he was a sophomore in high school, we were called to do a presidential rally for George H.W. Bush on Fountain Square. They asked us to come and be the warm-up band to get the crowd going. So we worked up routines with Brian out in front of the stage band. He was a sophomore in high school, and he had 10,000 plus people eating out of his hand. Tremendous, but if you can let people experiment, let them, tremendous things happen. Brian DeBruler, equipment we would have, how can we make this better? I'd ask Brian, he said, I know how to do that.
Buy another drum.
Right, or buy another amplifier. And then I would have to try to figure out where to get that money, but it was done. So I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. It's really a tremendous honor, and thank you.
I traveled many a mile with Charlie Green and Kenzie Bentle, I'll guarantee you. And he mentioned leading the opening day parade for the Reds annually. Marge Schott would call my office. I was principal. She would call my office about late January, February, and I could hear her puffing that cigarette. Jim, hi Marge, how you doing? You got to bring that big band down and lead the opening day parade? Yeah, we'll be there, Marge. Don't worry about it. Well, she said, I got a meeting down here Thursday night. Can you guys bring your band guys? Come on down to my office. So this one time we went down. It might have been also the time we played Johnny Bench's Retirement. I'm not sure I played that also. But anyway, we go down. Charlie Green says, well, he wanted to go down on the field and measure a couple things on the field for some of his lineups for the band. So naturally, it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday morning. There's not a soul there, just people cleaning the stadium. There had been a game the night before. And they led us through the Reds office, and they opened this little door, which was painted red. And they let Kenzie, Charlie, and me into the ballpark. He said, when you get finished, come back up and knock on this door, and we'll let you back in. So essentially, we were locked in the ballpark. Nobody in there but us. I had notion to slide into second base, but I didn't. But at any rate, Charlie got done a little bit, and we go back up to this red door, and nobody came to the door. We hit a little bit harder. Nobody came to the door. We pounded on the door real hard, and some guy opened the door, but he was different than the guy that let us in there. He said, is this the Reds office? He said, yes, it is. How'd you guys get in here? I said, well, we was down here at the San Francisco game last night. We ain't never got out yet. I could go through stories like that forever, and so could the rest of the musicians in here. Times on the road, good times, bad times, fun times. What an overwhelming crowd here tonight. I think everybody should give this entire crowd a big hand. And Kenzie Bentle, you put me on the spot. I want you to know that. You introduced your wife. My wife says don't ever introduce me in any of these places. But I'm going to anyway. Charlotte, my wife, is seated right over there. We were married 53 years this summer. So with all the stories, all the fun, the number one thing here is a wonderful group of musicians. There's been many in the past. There will be more in the future. And I will say to this audience, when the time comes that you and we are all gone, I hope each and every one of you is in heaven one half an hour before the damned old devil even knows you're gone.